G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. And for everyone out there, Merry Christmas. Today I want to do a video about some ideas I've got or some things I'd like to see brought into our industry, in particular to do with our precision, extreme long range shooting and ultra long range shooting. And some of it is just for general bits and pieces. But let me get into the three things I would like to see. That's three things I would like to see. First of all, what I've got in front of us is my 375 Gibbs, something that we're waiting to get out and do our ultra long range shots. As people probably are aware, there's a few fires around the place in Australia. It's all over Australia, so there's smoke everywhere. We're fine here at the moment, touch wood, but the smoke still comes across, so very smoky skies. So listen, nothing past probably the 2 mile sort of shots at the moment, but that's what we're waiting for. But anyway, it doesn't stop me coming up with some ideas and thoughts and things that I wanted to put out there, and for the people that might be in the industry that I don't get to speak to, or for people who've got ideas, who've got contacts, or have got contacts and can talk about it, or for the people that do have their ear to the ground and listening what the industry might, or our sport might be needing. These are some suggestions from me to use lot. First off, scope in front of us. This is an awesome scope. This is a Night Force Attacker 7x35 in a second focal plane. Really nice scope, really like it. It, as all the scopes out there, there's a feature that I think all scopes could do with, and I think all scopes could do with. At the moment you've got more than one rotation on either of your turrets. Then there's a simple thing that I a little bit don't understand why it doesn't exist already, and maybe that's legal terms, or maybe it's just not asked for. I don't know what it is. But my simple thoughts are on that I like the mechanical nature of a scope. I like there's different reticles that suit different things and that sort of stuff. I like being able to dial in, but a feature that I, like I said, don't understand why it doesn't exist already is I would like to see whether it's to the side on one of the turrets, or it's underneath each turret, or whatever it is. I would like a simple LED readout that tells me exactly where that scope is dialed to. It would need to be able to be zeroed and that sort of stuff, but I would like to be able to rotate my turret and not have to count my turns and not, we've all been in a place we've made a mistake because you've got 5 turns up and you only come down 4 and you think you're on 0 but you're not, and blah blah, and all sorts of different things. And there's different ways around with the different little indicators and things that some of the guys have done. But the simple thing, if I can get a vernier caliper with a digital readout on it, then I can do it on this pretty simply, and that is to have a readout for as simple as an E with whether that's 20, 25, 30, 100, 120, 150, whatever it is, it tells me exactly where I'm dialed to. And the same thing for a W or the windage. So 2 simple things that I would like to see someone come up with. In my honest thoughts, it should be on all tactical turrets with more than one rotation. There should be a digital display. The little pop-up things are good, and the mechanical side of it's very good, and being able to function in a completely mechanical form is very, very good, and I wouldn't want to take that away. I'm not talking about full heads-up displays and things like that. I think you can go too far there, but I'll leave that for the world to decide. But a bit I don't understand is why we don't have a display. And I suppose you could do that in a heads-up. I would prefer to see a thing on the outside of the scope, but listen, that's my first of what I would like to see. I think I've mentioned that once before, but I'd like to see the industry come up with that. The next thing I see, and I haven't got anything here to show you at the moment, but that is in a laser rangefinder. Now they're getting better and better. We're getting better levels of lasers in handheld devices that are not $25 and $30 and $50,000 in military stuff, but handheld stuff that, you know, we have the little SIG 2400, which we've used out to 3,000, just over 3,000 yards. There's now a few of them, and I think SIG and I think Vortex, and there's probably some others that do the binocular ones, which are running a little bit further than that. I think they've got slightly better lenses or something. I don't know the technical details there. But my honest thoughts are where that should be, and I don't understand why it doesn't exist already, is we should have laser range-finding spotting scopes. Simple thing. The way any of these scopes is they have a simple little heads-up display inside here, which is set up so there's a little angled piece of glass, which means you can see what the reading, the LED display inside there when you press the button. And then you have that set up to work with the laser beam, so it's pointing to exactly where your dot's showing in the center of your screen there. And as you start to get into the really long range stuff, so this is not really for hunting, this is much more for what we do, extreme long range shooting and ultra long range shooting. You get to where you can look at, well, we're coming up to stuff that's talking about 5,000 yards, so nearly 3 miles. Now holding that still in your hand on anything other than the side of a frickin' shed is not really going to be doable. And you also have another expensive piece of equipment, which is about lenses and about bits and pieces. Yes, there's a certain amount of money in the laser side of things, but in truth, one's a small spotting scope with a laser attached to it, one's a large spotting scope that doesn't have anything attached to it. Why not combine the two? Why not have a laser range finding spotting scope? It'll probably make the component worth another $500 or $800, so yes, there's a price thing attached to it, but in the way of a kit and the way of an instant being able to set up and do the job properly, and whether you want to attach all the weather conditions and that sort of stuff, as a lot of them have inside there, so it's all in the heads-up display that you'd be able to turn on and off in your spotting scope. That's a question of some people will go there, you know, that's probably a good idea. But my simple thought is, if I've got a perfectly good, very high quality spotting scope set up already on a tripod in front of my spotter, and she can press the button and range that dead accurately, I fail to see why you want another little one holding in your hands. So to me, I understand there's different places for different components. There's a laser rangefinder, there's a hunting situation, all those things that work well. But certainly for our stuff, the ELR stuff, the spotter, shooter side of things, you have a very well controlled spotting scope that can work there. I'm sure there's people looking at putting in rifle scopes and things like that. I would prefer to see and like I said, it's really just a enhanced version of what we already have, but a spotting scope with laser range finding inside of it. I'd love to see that. Whoever wants to come up with that, I think it's an awesome idea, and I think it would be followed, but I think that's an awesome way, and what we as ELR shooters, there'd be a whole gang of sales in that neck of the woods. Okay, that's 2. So there's 3 things I had to come up with. The third one is along the lines of a system that's already been designed, and that's the Charlie Tarak. But the guys over there at TACOM HQ have already designed, and that is with the Prism system, or the mirror system, basically the little periscope, an adjustable periscope. A system that was used in the very early days in tanks and things like that for ranging, that sort of stuff. And the guys over there came up with a system to put that on the front of your scope. It's adjustable, so you can set up different heights and that side of things. And it works very well, and really our only option for accurately being able to look at something without a scope raised right up in the air to deal with cant for an adjustable scope. It lets your scope stay in the right position and it lets you adjust to get onto target. Listen, it's a good fundamental concept, but I would like to see some decent changes to it. And my logic on how you would do that side of things is, I suppose, countering the things that are a problem with that unit. And I'm not trying to say the unit's a bad unit by any means, but it's very heavy, and you've got it hanging off, in my case, off the front of the scope. You're redesigning rifles and things to get it to mount on the front here and that sort of stuff, and it's dealing with its amount of weight. Now, I don't mind weight in the rifle, but I want weight properly attached to the rifle. So barrels and chassis and that sort of stuff is where I want it. I don't really want it in the stuff hanging on top here. There's a lot of inertia going on. I don't want it shaking around up there. So I see a negative to the weight. The other thing about that system is the adjustability of it makes it good because you can adjust to different places, but setting that and accurately setting that isn't quite so simple. Not field friendly to do in a fast fashion by any means. Once it's set up perfectly, if you've dialed it in, set up perfectly, then you could clip it on and clip it off. But there is some issues there. And of course, there's another little issue. They've come up with a new system to get around the fact that it only raises your elevation, your optical viewpoint by, I haven't done the measurements, but probably about 1.5 inches. And that is good to a degree because it helps you see over barrels, but only to so much. If your scope's a little lower, your muzzle brake's a little bigger, your elevation you're looking for is more, then you start to look through your barrel. What they did to counteract that was build a system, their Delta system, which comes out the side and lets you look to the side of the barrel, which is a decent concept. It's using the same things. It's using mirrors to change that lens. Quite involved, once again, weight involved with that side of things. And then we've got something hanging out the side of the rifle. So, like I said, great and good on them. They've come up with something that wasn't there and it really is doing the job. But my thoughts are to take that to the next level. And my thoughts are to make that in a very lightweight system. So as light as you can make it rigid. So whether that's making it out of titanium or whether that's just a very good high density plastic, which is not flexible or that side of things. So that makes two lightweight but very well supported mirrors inside there, which are extremely accurate, pass on an extreme amount of light so you don't lose any quality on that side of things, which is a set range. So whether it's 50 MOA or it's 100 MOA would suit. You probably want to build it in a couple of different ranges. So you can have a 50 MOA unit to step up a scope that's only got 60 MOA in it. Or you could have a 100 MOA unit that would suit something like this that has 100 to 120 MOA, and it can then, you can wind up to 90, going to 100, want to go past 100, you can click on this 100 unit and you can come back down to 1 and you've got 101 type thing. The other bits and pieces which are hidden inside my conversation are to be able to have multiple ones of those. Let me explain a little bit of what I'm talking about. I've got some boxes of 22 ammo, doesn't seem appropriate, but you'll listen, but bear with me. I'm talking about a unit that can bolt to the front. When it bolts, it raises its optical viewpoint by that same, roughly, of 1.5 inches. So the optical viewpoint comes up here, which means you get to see over things with more elevation. Let's say I've got this dialed to 100 minutes of elevation. I bolt this on, I'm at 200 minutes of elevation. Okay, I want to shoot something at 350. Well, I take another unit and I slip it on the front. And it does that. And then I take another unit because I'm going stupid distances and I do that. And every time I bolt on 100 MOA, I raise it. That would have to be worked out mathematically what we're talking about there. And there's lots of details to go into it. I would be, whether you're mounting to the rifle, the same sort of systems. I wouldn't use magnets and things, but the same sort of things as the Charlie track, where they're belted down the bottom, or you screw to your lens cover, but something that locks on there and is made to where it sets. I've made arms and things to make sure mine sets to vertical and can't be wrong, can't be different. In this sort of system, I could really see you could have a little slide together system that they slide in like that. So you're probably in the sort of inertia and motion we're talking about, you wouldn't even need to make them lock. They could just click in on ball detent. But you put on to, like I said, where you've got, I presume at least would lose a little bit of light transmission every time you add something on. But if you're down in the 1 and 2%, we're not talking about a whole lot there. But to be able to stack on the front of it means that then you are not needing to go to the side. You run these in, like I said, in as light a weight as you can build them, and you can stack up. Obviously, once you've gone past 300 MOA, you're talking about very rare usages up there. But it builds you that system to be able to do that lightweight. There'd be extra expense to buying more of them, but that attaches to that sort of shot anyway. And I suppose there's various ways of looking at where that could go. Just my thoughts on how you would do that without, and I suppose I'd say in all scope elevation, my place I've come to is set amounts of MOA in the way of bolt-on is the best way to do it, rather than vernier adjustments on any level, where then you've got two sets of numbers to keep in your head, and you have set adjustments which are 1, 2, 3, and in all the different forms. I think is the best way to do it, and this would give you extreme long range shooting with the feature that's required, which is more elevation to be able to look over things once you run into a lot more height. Anyway, that's it. Those are the three things I thought, and I'll just recap quickly. 1, to have a LED readout so you know where you're dialing your scope to, whether it's heads up or it's outside the body, but an LED readout that tells you precisely where you dial to, so you never get that confused again. You never dial up and miss for the first few shots and then realise, wait a minute, I'm 1 rotation out. All done it. That would answer it, and really the technology is there. We just got to combine it. The laser range finding spotting scope. It is just a proper laser rangefinder. They are already a little spotting scope, turn into a big one. It's already mounted. It's in front of your spotter all the time. Rangefinding is easy. That all starts to make sense. That's once again, technology is already there. Just got to make it happen. This one here of going with the extra stuff for a different way of doing the mirror or the periscope elevation adding. Is riding on the back of a very smart man, John, over there at TACOM HQ, which have really brought something that really changed the game, what we're doing. This is just the next level of it. So it really does come with thanks to those guys for bringing that to our sport. This is just the next level evolution of it. So anyway, if there's anyone out there that that can listen to this sort of stuff and would like to see it or think there's a market as well, I really think there is. Certainly in our little niche of ELR shooting, I think there really is. I suppose this one here, I'd go to that one unit with, let's say it's just the little one, the 50. That really does take all you guys with Smith & Benders and some of the very good Swarovski's, I won't go too far into it, but some very, very good scopes that only have 60 minutes or 80 minutes of elevation. With one little bolt on the front here, you get to where you've got 120 or 150 minutes of elevation. It really changes your kit into stuff that lets you shoot the normal ELR stuff. So when you're after 120 or 130 minutes, which is much more in the normal place of ELR stuff, obviously multiple stacking and that sort of stuff going into the 300 and 400 MOA is ultra long range, and I'm sure in a lot of people's minds just silly anyway, but for us it's still a valuable thing. But yeah, that's my thoughts. As said, Merry Christmas to everybody. We will have a video out before New Year, but for those that don't see it, Happy New Year for 2020. And let's hope in 2020 we get to see some of this stuff. Anyway guys, thanks for checking in on us. We'll catch you next time.